Hello everyone and welcome to another video with me on Berets, and today it's JP side stuff and eventually global stuff as we are talking about the Nier unit. Alright, so Nier is a series that I'm just gonna flat out say right now is never a series I've particularly liked. I can appreciate the artwork, I can appreciate the director and how different it is from some stuff. And the fact that, you know, there are definitely people who really like it out there, but it's never been a game that's quite clicked with me. And that's fine. That's totally fine. I mean, not everyone needs to like everything. That's cool. No worries. But, regardless, I'm here to talk about the Nier units, and there was some kind of segue going on. Alright, so we're going to take a look at both 2B as well as 9S. Two units from the Nier series who have recently been added to the JP side. And for anybody who's wondering why I haven't done the reviews a little bit sooner, well, Christmas kind of got in the way and I wanted a little more time with them, and I was kind of hoping Wotv Calc would end up giving me the percentages, but it hasn't updated recently. So we're just going to go for it. Alright, so starting off with 2B's evaluation. First of all, on paper, I would probably say that 2B is the better of the two units, which isn't surprising. 9S was given out for free, but I do think that 2B is overall the better package, but not by as much as you would think. So her master ability ends up giving her some evasion rate as well as the standardized stuff that she gives to wind elemental characters. And as for her EX job, well, we'll talk about that closer to the end. So what is she? She's a physical attacker who uses slashing and piercing abilities, and she is basically a very combative unit in the sense that she is very much like a brawler type character given her lineup of classes. Her primary job, which is a unique job, samurai as the secondary, and last but not least fighter, which is very much a getting close to another group of units and just beat the living shit out of them. Mostly physical units though. Has physical barrier and high avoidance performance. In other words, meaning that she, can obviously tussle with physical units way better than magical units. And she actually does have some buffs that can improve other characters, which is kind of nice. Big weaknesses, though, is that she is weak to ice, piercing, and magic. So there are some characters out there who will take big advantage, such as Victoria or Laswell or Victora. Sorry, I guess global slightly different. And as well as I think even Orin would be really potentially good against her. So he's a physical unit that I think is really, really solid, but at the same time, I do think that she has pretty evident counters that are very clearly available. But ice isn't quite the most scary element, and it's definitely not the most common element. But yeah, oh, and Gilgamesh, because I'm sure there's someone in the comments like, you forgot Gilgamesh, and now they'll say I forgot someone else. I tried. Alright, so let's talk about job acquisition, basically. So what does she have that's really noteworthy in her kit? Well, her Yorha, I'm gonna mess that up. She has resist field, which is one of the more interesting ones because it teleports to the target square and increases resistance to slash and hitting attacks of the target within centered range. Also invalidates don't move, don't act, and one other status effect. I want to say that it's berserk, but anyway, basically has a bunch of buffs for other party members, which is kind of cool. And it also comes with a teleport, which feels really unique. And that's great. I like seeing unique abilities on these characters. Also a shockwave, damaging a target and reducing healing power. She can put a barrier on herself to reduce physical damage. Swirl raid, which is a damage to targets in range plus version. Medium damage, probability of being inoperable for 3 turns, attacking regardless of enemy or ally. And also a large damage to target, penetration, and 3 turns slashing and striking attack power down. So some debuffs as well as attack damage. She can do it all. She can also increase healing power for 3 turns, which is kind of interesting because one of her support abilities absorbs part of the damage given for 5 turns from the start of battle. Really interesting ability that is pretty unique to her. It's a healing one, but it only lasts so long, so kind of puts her in a bit of a, well, she has a really good amount of speed, both her and 9S do. So that potentially allows her to, get in there and just fight an enemy pretty quick. All right. And also the unique counter ability for this, just avoidance, which avoids potentially of a physical attack. Again, basically all of her kit is very focused towards being against physical units, but not against magical units. We'll get into resistance a little bit too. Samurai is basically what you expect. There isn't really too much to talk here. She has dedicated, night book, mind's eye, sword soul, a lot of the standard stuff that samurais do have. As for fighter, she has basically the fighter abilities that you kind of want, such as damage to target and moving to the target square is also really nice. And she has the damage to targets within range and giving some human killer. She has really nice abilities for fighting physical. And I think that the stuff here is really, really good. And also her support abilities, we've talked about one of them so far, but going back to her Yora for a second, is increased attack and defense penetration. That's a good option. Sword Soul, which gives evasion rate up, defense down, but also attack up as well. That's pretty nice, just because, she's a pretty evadey character, so giving her more evasion, not necessarily bad. And also in her fighter, she can just have HP up and attack up, or increased hit and increased probability of continuous counter. There's a lot of different ways to build 2B with her support abilities, and that's kind of great. Just the fact that you have so many options for a character can make them very versatile. I mean, straightforward kits are nice because it's just boom, you're done, easy. But also, it's kind of nice to just have a lot of different options. I think 2B has that. Now, taking a look at her limit burst, show off that animation while we're going here. All right, the limit burst, damage to the target large after increasing the penetration rate of zone slashing attack resistance for 3 turns. So in other words, a very strong slashing attack. I don't think there's really too much to talk about there, just very strong. Looking at her EX job improvements, her support ability that allows her to absorb HP the first 5 turns is one of the things that gets increased. And yeah, that's just, potentially more survivable ability, but it does kind of make you wonder whether it's really good considering that she's trying to evade stuff most of the time. It's maybe you want to go just more HP and the auto heal if you want to go that direction, or evasion in another direction, but again, options. She also has strength and stab, which powers up one of her abilities that also is the 3 turn slashing and strike attack power greatly reduced. So, that's a good ability to be improved. And her new one is Shockwave Kai, which has the slow effect. Yeah, I mean, it's a medium damage for a plus AoE, and it has slow on it. It's kind of interesting because that ability is not a limit burst, so that's kind of nice as opposed to Kane. But we've also seen this kind of thing with Kane before, so I don't think it's the most exciting thing. Now, looking at the last little piece of her kit that we really need to talk about is her Trust Mastery. This one is pretty interesting. 252 HP, 10 avoidance, 7 spirit, and gives overclocking. Significantly increase the amount of AP gained for 3 turns, and increase the speed of the unit too. Seems like a really powerful one. It's not quite Bells, but it's also, I don't know, it might be a really interesting other one, like a different type that is unlike Bells, but you could potentially, put on some units and just go to town with it. It's interesting, to say the least. All right, and talking about our Boyo here, and the one that initially I think is probably the more interesting of the two, 9S. All right, so taking a look at 9S's strengths, has multiple buffs and excellent support performance, high durability, with his secondary job, and strengthens the entire party with the lightning attribute with his mass ability, which is something that lightning kind of needed more of, so good to see it here. Alright, so let's get into his kit. Primary job, which is a unique job. Secondary will be Nightblade, which is an Elsie's job, and I do believe Duan has it as well. On the global side, last but not least, is Viking, which is good, damage up one. Alright, taking a look at his primary class here. Roll into it. There we go. Alright, shield deployment, which is centered around himself but is a plus AoE. Defend and improve spirit of allies within range centered on themselves for 3 turns. Also, straighten spear, which is just a damage to target within range. He's more of a spear user like Lassie, less of a spear user like a Dragoon. Also has Assault Field, which increase attack and hit rate of allies within 3 turns, plus, but it's not necessarily centered around him, so a little more flexibility. But a good buff. He has defensive buff and an offensive buff separated. Rotating Spear, which is an AoE plus. Ability cancellation effect on an AoE. Cool. Obviously pretty situational, but if you can cancel the ability, that's pretty good. Magic Jammer on a physical unit, on a Pierce unit, I think it's super interesting. And last but not least, Hacking. Under attribute damage large, 3-turn attack and magic power down. I honestly think that it's just a really good thing to have a debuff, and this is one that protects the party, which falls really nicely in line with 9S's kit. So yeah, I think it's really great. The sub part of this job, double spear attack, so he has a little bit of chaining with some defense penetration. Target scan, target defense and quickness down for 3 turns. This is a plus AoE again, but defense and quickness down is an interesting combination. Like I said, 9S's kit, definitely some choices here. Just avoidance, same as 2B in what that ability does, allows you to avoid physical attacks. Has Clock Up, which gives move +1 and quickness up, and hacking enhancement, which strengthens hacking range and gives stun with probability. Actually, both of those 2 supports are basically what I would recommend, because the hacking is just really a main part of his kit, and movement up and quickness up should never be underestimated. Nightblade, though, does have some really good stuff. Double resist, stun blade, AP drain, spinning slash, and drain rush, the most powerful one, a 3-hit ability, and this is a 3-hit thunder chaining ability, which is, something thunder as an element could use more of. Also heals 9S here, so running him as a Nightblade is basically recommended. Also has attack and hit rate up with evasion rate down for support ability, and Viking is, well, Viking. But the big important thing for Viking is that he does have Fighting Spirit for his counter, and Viking tips HP up and attack up, and Blessing of Arrow Shield. Increased resistance to shooting attacks does give him some defense options as well as some offensive options, giving him more HP. As for his limit burst self-hacking, we'll show off that limit burst animation right now. Lightning damage to target after increasing own defense penetration rate for 3 turns large. So just a powerful little ability that gives him some extra attack up. And for his own master ability does give him some extra defense, which is good because he is a little bit more of a tanky unit compared to 2B. I wanted to say 9B, and I realized how wrong that was. All right, looking at his abilities for what gets increased. So first of all, we have rotating spears getting increased, ability cancellation, and quickness down for 3 turns. So if you get him into EX job, he can also reduce quickness with that ability while potentially canceling. So turn disruption is pretty interesting. Strength and shield deployment is the other one to get a increase. Defensive allies on range center for self for 3 turns. Mental also up. Also gives a protect effect that reduces physical damage to itself for 3 turns. Really kind of want to see how much it does, but nice for making 9S tankier. And his new ability, Straight Spear Kai, damage to target large, piercing attack resistance down. So supports him, potentially supports other spear users, such as Kane or Glassy. Both thunder and water working together? That looking at his Trust Mastery, 382 HP, 10 defense, critical avoidance, as well as a Cure Field ability centered around the unit. HP is gradually restored to allies within range, centered on itself for 3 turns of the regeneration effect. Sleep, Confusion, and Charm invalidated. So actually a really, really good TMR that protects against status elements as well as potentially healing. Really nice little buff. I would put that on a ton of different units. Yeah, not much else to say. I think it's a really strong... both of the units, I think, have really great kits and really strong Trust Masteries. I don't think that there's really much else worth talking about there. I just think that they are really solid units. All right, so as you can see here, stuff happened on my account. But we're also going to take a look at the stats, and we're really going to be testing on 2B's TMR because I've kind of been interested into how much AP she can actually. So here's a look at 9S from a more finalized build. About 6,000 HP, 1,100 attack. This is with a Ifrit and a Ifrit card pretty much maxed, as well as this brand new spear. Has 145 attack, not the highest attack, but this one is a Thunder primary spear, and definitely worth farming considering Thunder spear units could happen in the future. Did High Wind? Anyway, this is Pod. It's just a free accessory. It doesn't need to be a +5. Really wonderful. Even has some speed on it. Definitely worth it. And he has his own Trust Mastery, so you can kind of see his stats. Taking a look at the resistance. Pretty solid resistances. Great against Pierce, great against shooting, even solid against Slash. Strike is a little bit of a weak point, but last but not least, Magic is a big problem for him, I would imagine. Thunder, obviously Earth Mages, there are Earth Mages, but still could be a problem if he ended up becoming... Maybe that's a good thing. And last but not least, taking a look at 9S, as you can see, both 2B, get them confused. Both of them have really good speed, but taking a look at 2B, this one is built with Tetra as well as a Tetra card. I assume this is to upgrade wind damage as well as potentially, more avoidance, which is an interesting build. And if you want to go that way, I can understand it. I'm thinking more about Omega, since that also gives magic resistance, but I digress. 5,000 HP, 1,000 attack, 14 defense, and 7 spirit with this build, as well as 97 speed, but 357 luck is pretty awesome. So yeah, I think that both of the units are really strong actually, and for different reasons. I like both of the units. Obviously, the greedy side is, get everything to EX level 120. But in a world where money is finite and you should probably not be spending that much, it is something to be said that you should be a little careful. All right, so... I think we're just going to be focusing on using one very specific. And since we have two 2Bs, we can actually kind of get an idea for how this is going to go. Here is her Trust Mastery ability. As you can see, she gets her turn very, very quickly. And we'll see. So she's at 57 AP, going up here. I don't want to attack, but maybe I should just be testing abilities. We're going to go up to 80 here. 57 to 80, so we're looking at about, what, 23? And here we're going from 35 to 48, so basically a maxed out Trust Mastery. I mean, it is giving her extra speed, but it's also giving her a pretty sizable increase in her AP, so pretty interesting. Also, it seems like you can actually do that towards enemies. All right, let's see how much her Limit Burst does here. This is, again, fully maxed. $9,000 and heals for 2,700. Pretty darn strong. Don't pick on my 9S, he's not as developed. Ah, the pain. As you can see, considerably less strong, but you know, that's just kind of the way it is. 7,000 on this one, which also, this is her EX job that also, her EX ability that also gives her the slow effect. Healing for 2,400 ain't, definitely ain't nothing. How embarrassing. I didn't even kill it. AP drain of 12 from... Oh, you got 16. Nice. Not necessarily talked about, but this is something I'm currently doing, of building Seymour. Yeah, that's the thing that's happening. Yeah, kind of giving you an idea of what the units look like. Obviously, we'll have probably a little bit better build once I built my own a little bit more, but also really testing out 2B's TMR, because I'm very interested on the grounds of like how much speed it ended up giving, and it did seriously give a good speed boost to her, as well as a, you know, pretty nice AP generation increase. So solid Trust Mastery. So anyway, that's basically a somewhat short look at the characters. I think, again, both are really good characters for potentially different reasons, but yeah, both are really strong, and I like them both. And you know, if you want to save up for them, heck of a lot worse, amongst all the other units you need to get to. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Take care.